What's going on, great people? Welcome back to my channel. I don't even know what to call my channel. I just be on here recording. I don't even consider myself like a YouTuber. Like I just be doing reactions, whatever. So I don't even got no channel name. Just JV the Great, and you are great as well. It's all about your mindset. But today we're going to check out Larry Elder and some of the key points, the key parts on his Breakfast Club interview. Man, I watched this interview and I was cheering him on the entire time because it's we need people like Larry Elder. Some may call him a coon, some may call him an Uncle Tom, but we need other black people to enlighten black people because a lot of times where white people can't do it. Not saying that they can't, but technically they can't do it because if you have black people that call another Uncle Toms and coons for trying to tell the real history of black history, uh, and you're trying to wake them up to politics and Democrats and Republicans and how all that originated. There's no way a white person can come in and tell a host of black people on one of the top radio stations in the country. There's no way that a white person can come in and educate those people. So we need people like Larry Elder to come in and educate these brainwashed people who, by the way, are on the radio stations 24/7, constantly playing music that is degrading. All you hear is music that's promoting sluts, promoting killing, gang banging, nothing that really moves the black community forward, but yet it's supposed to be our so-called culture. But when it comes to politics, they're so brainwashed into thinking that all black people supposed to be on the side of Democrats. And I understand that it was a few times on during this interview where Charlamagne and I don't know the black woman's name, but she comes off as really aggressive and just obnoxious, and just really didn't appear to be interested in having a civil dialogue. She just comes off as extremely angry and wants to assert uh, her position and wants to be the loudest one in the room for some reason. That's not how you have a productive conversation. Like if a guy is knowledgeable on his history, then you should be all ears. You shouldn't be so combative and trying to like defend a position that's not even like positive for the community anyway. But I've done enough rambling to begin with, so let's go ahead and start this video. Wow, I wasn't even oh, never mind. I was gonna say I wasn't even recording. I was gonna get pissed.
Wake that ass up early in the morning. The Breakfast Club.
Morning, everybody. It's DJ NV, Charlamagne the Guy. We are the Breakfast Club. We have Teslin Figueroa with us, and we got a special guest in the building, 2024 Republican presidential candidate, Larry Elder. Welcome, brother.
Thank you so much for having me. It is an honor.
How you feeling?
I feel good.
He does more than that, though. I mean, he was a radio host.
Radio host for 40 years.
Author, TV host.
Author,
New York
host.
Times bestselling list. I've got a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. Corner of Hollywood and Vine, southeast corner, just saying.
Okay.
Oh, I didn't know you had a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame,
Yeah,
man.
yeah, about a handful of radio guys do, and I'm one of them.
Yeah, I think it's you, Elvis Duran,
Angie
Howard
Martinez.
Stern,
Yeah.
Big Boy. Oh, Angie
Martinez.
Martinez.
A guy named Arthur Godfrey.
Okay.
Yeah.
So let's jump right into it. Why are you running for president?
Well, I'm running as an America First mega guy, and we have an America First mega guy running, obviously. So the question is, what do you bring to the table?
You said MAGA.
MAGA.
Okay.
And the answer is I bring a lot of issues to the table that I feel our side is not talking enough about, if at all. For example, the number one social problem in America, by far, is the epidemic not of COVID, but of fatherlessness. 70% of black kids today enter the world without a father in the home, married to the mother, up from 25%.
Now, I don't even believe that, and this is no slight on Larry, on Mr. Elder, but I don't believe he's really running to become the president. I believe he's just doing this so that he can get the main issues of the black community on center stage, especially during these debates. And he wants to hold a lot of these presidential candidates, he wants to hold their feet to the fire. And when he's debating, a lot of these topics that he's talking about are going to be centerfold. And the other side is going to have to respond to him, and how they respond. Black people can get a more clear view on who they are casting their votes for. So I salute Larry Elder for doing this.
Back in 1965. Now 25% of white kids enter the world today without a father in the home, married to the mother. And the stats are clear. Even Barack Obama once cited them. If you're raised without a dad, you're 5 times more likely to be poor and commit crime, 9 times more likely to drop out of school, and 20 times more likely to end up in jail. What's happened? In the mid-'60s, with I think the best of intentions, a Democrat named Lyndon Johnson launched what he called the War on Poverty. And since then, we have incentivized women to marry the government and incentivized men to abandon their financial and moral responsibility. You know, when I say this to people, the pushback I get is, well, there are lots of things that are going on, systemic racism, poverty. Here's the problem. If you look at a young black male, aged 10 to 40.
And I know this interview is like, I see it's an hour and 6 minutes, so I'm not gonna take you guys back through the entire interview, but I'm gonna just go through the points that I marked down, and we're going to listen to that. So let's go to the first point.
Hold on 1 second, Charlamagne. Well, so
What's not
you're
true?
bringing back facts of 1965, right? Let's talk 2023, right?
I said 1995.
1995. We'll talk 2023, right? My son will.
And a strong belief in education and a strong belief in entrepreneurship. These are the kinds of qualities that make people successful.
You can't blame everything on having a fatherless family, right? Because
I didn't say blaming everything.
I know, but that's what you're saying. You're saying a strong community. But
no, you said
talk
that's
about
what
the
I just
Asian
said. I didn't
community,
say
but
that.
You talk about the Asian community. Asian community, it's easy for them to get loans for entrepreneurships. It's easy for them to get loans for houses. You look at our community.
Okay.
If you really want to talk about our community, right? You look at the schools in our community. Some of our schools are the worst, right? Would you agree with that? Yes or no?
Absolutely. Which is
Right?
why one of the reasons I'm running for president is for school choice.
Also, would you say that it's in our community is
systemic? By the way.
it's also in our community is heavy food deserts. There's nothing but fast food places that are just killing and destroying that. Would you say that's true?
Systemic too. By the way.
Boy.
Would you say that's true? I'm just asking a question.
You said a number of things. I just addressed one of them about loans.
I mean, Envy, if you feel that's the case, and it appears that the whole Breakfast Club still believe in this systemic racism, why aren't you guys educating black people to do something about it? Why aren't you guys putting your money somewhere to do something about it? If you see that there's fast food restaurants on every corner, if you see that it's hard for black people to establish loans, or if you see that you know, whatever systemic racism you guys see, why aren't you guys putting it on the forefront with having one of the top radio stations in the country, instead of playing all this bullshit music 24/7? Talk on stuff that's actually going on within the communities that you guys see, because a lot of people aren't privileged to see things from your lenses, being as successful as you guys are. And how is it that the host of the Breakfast Club are continuing to put out this notion that systemic racism is so bad, but yet they're on one of the top radio stations in the country? DJ Envy, he's from my view, from my understanding, is he's very successful in real estate. So how did he break the barriers of systemic racism? Why not talk about that instead of living in 1965 and all this stuff? Instead of living in the past, why not educate black people on how to become successful, like you, DJ Envy, Charlamagne?
In 1965, Barack Obama, who was then in private practice, joined a bunch of other lawyers to file a class action lawsuit against Citicorp, which is headquartered here in New York. 186 black people were applying for loans for mortgages. They didn't get them. And they accused Citicorp of engaging in racism. Citicorp said, no, it's not racism. You have poor credit scores, and we want to make sure we get our money back. Obama joined a bunch of other lawyers, and they sued Citicorp in a class action lawsuit. And Citicorp said, okay, to hell with it. Gave them all loans. And they followed them all up. Daily Caller did a few years later. Almost all of them lost their homes. Several of them filed for bankruptcy. One of them even said, when you don't qualify for a loan, maybe we shouldn't get a loan. Well, duh. It wasn't true that black people were not getting loans. Plus, there are all sorts of black-owned community banks around the country, and it turns out the turn-down rate when you apply for a loan at a community bank was even higher because they had less capital and they couldn't afford to loan money to risky people. It is just not the case that the reason for the plight of the black community is because people were not lending money to them. It's just not true.
That's not true. Hold on a second, Charlamagne. What's not true? You bring back facts in 1965, right? Let's talk 2023, right?
I said 1995.
1995. We'll talk 2023, right? My son will be successful in real estate and successful in buying a house. You know why? Because his father owns a house. Because his father owns a house, right? But my father
because of you and the drive, because of you and the drive you put into him,
did not own houses.
Because of you and the drive you put into him.
We're not going to have a conversation.
You're not even appreciating what you've done to your son.
I'm just asking you a question.
Listen to what Larry just said. You're not even appreciating what you've done for your son, DJ Envy. You're sitting here saying your son will be successful in real estate. That's because of you, DJ Envy. You're successful yourself in real estate because you had that drive. I don't know DJ Envy's history, but if you don't have a drive, you're not going to be successful anyway. Also, if you're easily influenced by the media and radio and all this other propaganda out here, you're not going to be successful either. You're going to hear these race hustlers and these people that race bait 24/7. They want to tell you that the black people are so oppressed and being weighed down by white supremacy and systemic racism, when you can go out here right now and do something with yourself. You can invest in whatever you want to invest in. You go out here and start your own business, start your company, whatever. There is no law, there's no restrictions. There are no restrictions on black people that prevents them from getting up and doing whatever they want to do, going out chasing their dreams. Now, if you have bad credit, of course, it's going to be hard for you to get loans. If you have poor money management skills, you don't know what to do with your money, you don't know how to invest, it's going to be kind of hard for you. But if you go to the bank, you go to them with a business plan, you have good credit, you have a good credit history, 9 times out of 10, you more than likely will get a loan. Now, if one bank turns you down, go to the next. They're just like saying, oh, if you go to a restaurant and someone don't want to serve you, go to another restaurant. 9 times out of 10, you're going to eventually end up at a restaurant where majority of the staff looks like you. And that's with banks, that's with hospitals, that's with clinics, that's with law firms, that's with anything. So all this white supremacy talk, man, and blacks are being oppressed and all this, man, black people don't fall for it. Democrats and far left groups and radio stations like The Breakfast Club and TV shows like The View, they are far left Democrat promoters. They feel that Democrats are owed the black vote. Wake up. Make decisions for yourself. Just because you're black, that don't mean you're supposed to automatically vote for a Democrat. Do yourself a favor. Pull up the Republican chart and the Democratic chart and look at their policies and see which one you align with the most. Just do that.
I just let you speak and I'll let you talk.
Okay. Y'all can talk.
We have a conversation.
All right.
But when we talk about it, right, it's harder for our community to get loans, right? And not just because of poor credit scores, it's because of where the areas are. You talked about the Asian community. A lot of the Asian community have their own banks and they're able to process and get their own banks. There's not too many African-American branches that are able to give out money. So that's one. Then let's talk about getting grants for schools. They're not even giving grants for schools at the rate that they're giving grants for white people. And let's talk about when they talk about entrepreneurship. They are giving so much money to these white and Asian kids and Asian people doing it and 1,000 times less than our community. Will you agree to any of that?
No, I don't. I don't agree with virtually any of what you just now said. The turn down rate for a white applicant for a mortgage is higher than the turn down rate for a Japanese or Chinese applicant for a mortgage. Now, are you telling me that banks are discriminating against whites and in favor of Asian Americans? It's because their credit scores are better. They often live below their means. They save more, even when they're making the same amount of money than black people do. If you have poor credit score, you're not going to get a loan. Period. End of statement. Even the head of Urban League, a black man, once said that if you have poor credit score, you're not going to get a loan. End of statement.
Sir,
Yes.
let's just okay. When you were talking about crime, you weren't prepared to talk about disproportion. You talked about how it was more black people that was doing it, and then you talked about how we're the smaller, other population. The same applies also to the loans. It's more white people than it is black people. You seem to pick and choose.
I'm talking about the rate. I'm talking about the rate.
Whatever it is. The bottom line is it's more white people than it is black people. And so if more black people are not getting loans disproportionately, it seems you only want to apply the disproportion to the conversation when it benefits your talking point.
I'm not sure you understood.
Which is why they said.
I'm not sure you understood.
No, understood.
I'm not sure you understood my point. That's why I mentioned in 1995 when 186 black people who were not getting loans filed a class action lawsuit claiming that they were denied the loan because of racism. Citicorp said, okay, here are your loans. The reason I wasn't giving you the loans is because we're afraid you weren't going to be able to pay them back.
I'm not talking about
Fast forward,
sir.
they weren't able to pay them back, which proves the Citicorp point.
I'm not talking about that. I'm not talking about
I know
that.
you're
I'm
not,
talking about your
because
response.
inconvenient.
I'm talking about your response to Envy when you said more white people get approved for loans.
Since you like numbers,
I
Washington Post
said
said black Americans have the highest denial rates for purchase and refinance of loans, according to Home Mortgage Disclosures Act.
Because of
20%
their credit
black,
score.
and all credit scores are the same. 15% of Hispanic loan applicants were denied, compared with about 11% of white and 10% of Asian applicants with same credit scores. And that's Washington Post, since you love numbers so much, and I know you do love numbers. That's coming from the Washington Post. That's 2023, not 1995.
I can show you a study that says the opposite.
Let me ask you a question.
Y'all heard what Larry just said. I can show you a study that shows the opposite. Now, also, in case y'all didn't know, there are actual groups and media groups and companies that their main job is to find racism. So, of course, you're going to have studies that pinpoint and show acts of racism and racist charts and all this type of stuff, because that's what they're out here to do. If race baiting is a very lucrative hustle. If you can convince a bunch of black people and control their emotions to believe that they're being oppressed, then they're going to need to go to someone, follow someone to allow them to cater to those emotions. Right? You always see these debates about, oh, white people are doing this, white people are doing that, white people are so bad, white people this, that, and third. Ask yourself, when was the last time you had a racist encounter? Every time I see a white person, man, it's all up. I don't know what they say behind my back, but in person, I never have issues with white people. You know, they're a joy to communicate with, talk to, engage with. Like, I've never had an issue with a white person. I'm just being 100% honest. And when I was younger, I grew up in Mississippi. Now, well, there was one time when I was younger but I didn't like. It was more so I ain't gonna get into it. But it wasn't like something that impacted me in like a major way. It was completely avoidable. It had nothing to do with money or, weighing me down to become successful or anything like that. It was just some type of like little relationship type stuff. That's all it was.
Mr. Elder, Donald Trump, Rudy Giuliani, and I'm pretty sure everybody who just caught a RICO with him in Georgia, they all had fathers, and they still ended up in jail. How did that happen?
Mm-hmm.
Nobody said indicted. That's a far cry from being in jail.
Mm.
Okay. You told me that I cut you off.
It is getting entrepreneurship, whether it is education, whether it is all those things. You do understand that and agree with that, correct?
I do, but much of it is either self-inflicted or because of policies that we have supported. Democrats that we have supported. I wrote a book called, it's coming out in October, it's called As Goes California, My Mission to Rescue the Golden State and Save the Nation. It's about the one-party rule in California. California has supermajorities of Democrats in the Senate and in the House. And as a result, our schools are near the bottom. People are leaving California for the very first time. We have the highest state income tax in the country. The average price of a home in California costs 175% above the national average, all because of these left-wing policies that are hurting the very people, black and brown people living in the inner city, that people on the left claim that they care about.
Do you think slavery was self-inflicted, or do you think Jim Crow segregation was self-inflicted, or do you think,
slavery was self-inflicted? Of course, it wasn't self-inflicted, but there are a lot of people have bloody hands in slavery. Mm-hmm. For example, slavery could not have existed had it not been for African chieftains who were selling black slaves captured in battle or captured through raids and selling them to European and Arab slavers. It could not have existed without that. So everybody has dirty hands here. That's why reparations is such a foolish thing. If you're going to get reparations from the 5% or so of white people that have some sort of generational connection to slavery, and that's all there is, then you need to go back to Africa and get money from African countries that were involved in the slave trade and in the Arab slave trade. And by the way, the Arab slave trade was even worse than the European slave trade. 90% rate of attrition, often making men and women walk on barefoot across the Sahara, and the men were castrated. Only about
So if they go after the money from the other countries, then would you agree that it would be okay to go after the money from America? Is that your problem with it?
When are you going to stop with this? Everybody has a grievance.
I just asked a simple question.
I'm answering your question. There's no end. There'll be no end to this because slavery has been part of human history from the very beginning.
Okay, now I've let you talk. Sir, I've let you talk. And every time I talk, you begin to talk and then you say, let you finish. So I asked you a very simple question. You said, if you're going to go after it in America, go after it in Africa. So if we all agree to go after it in Africa, will you then agree to go after it in America? It's just a simple question. Yes or no?
No, I won't, because it's a waste of time. We ought to be spending our time on education.
Next question.
Okay. You told me that I cut you off. Then I tried to answer your question. You won't let me finish.
Go ahead, Larry.
Thank you. It's a waste of time. We ought to be talking about working hard, investing in our.
I believe this is the type of reactions that that woman, I don't even know her name, that black woman, I believe these are the type of reactions that she tries so hard to get because she's very combative, man. She comes off as angry and just wants to pick a fight. She's not listening to anything. She's not open to understanding anything. She's just rambling and going off, man, and trying to push buttons at this point.
Ourselves. Right now, as we speak, there are Haitians in Haiti lining up for a lottery to come into this country. Why? Because it is the land of the free and the home of the brave. You can go from nothing to something faster in America than any other country in all of human history. We ought to be talking about that. Let me just, one more point. 1997, Time Magazine and CNN hooked up together to do a poll on what black teenagers and white teenagers felt about racism. Mm-hmm. And both of them were asked, is racism a major problem in America? Both of them said yes. But then Time and CNN asked this question of the black teenagers. Is racism a big problem, a small problem, or no problem in your own daily life? This is 1997. 89% of them said small problem or no problem in my own daily life. In fact, twice as many blacks said failure to take advantage of available opportunities is a bigger problem than racism.
That was 1997.
1997. Look it up.
It's 2023, though.
Charlamagne, how dare you, man? Everything that y'all been talking about that deals with systemic racism is coming from the past. But yeah, you just say, oh, that was 1997. It's 2023. Everything that revolves around racism is in the past. And it's being reminded in today's in present time. You can't pinpoint no business, you can't pinpoint anything that suggests that in 2023, we have systemic racism in this country. If you ask anybody about racism, they're going to take you back to the past. But now here you have Charlamagne talking about, oh, Larry, that was 1997. We're in 2023. Motherfucker, what are you...
You think America's more racist now after the election and re-election of Barack Obama than it was in 1997?
Yes, because of the election of MAGA, Donald Trump, 100%. Yes.
Really?
Absolutely.
Well, how is it, Charlamagne, that Donald Trump got 8% of the black vote in 2016? He got 12% in 2020, a 50% increase. He got
2023 though.
racism. And both of them were asked, is racism a major problem in America? Both of them said yes. But then Time and CNN asked this question of the black teenagers. Is racism a big problem, a small problem, or no problem in your own daily life? This is 1997. 89% of them said small problem or no problem in my own daily life. In fact, twice as many blacks said failure to take advantage of available opportunities is a bigger problem than racism.
That was
Twice,
1997.
1997. Look it up.
It's 2023 though.
You think America's more racist now after the election and re-election of Barack Obama than it was in 1997?
Yes, because of the election of MAGA, Donald Trump, 100%.
He said America is more racist now simply because simply because of the election of Donald Trump and MAGA. How does that make any sense? MAGA stands for Make America Great Again. As far as different groups and organizations that try to latch on to the whole MAGA campaign, that has nothing to do with the definition behind MAGA. MAGA is Make America Great Again. We're all Americans. We should want to see America be great and at the forefront of everything. The election of Donald Trump has nothing to do with racism. If anything, if you want to look at it that way, how Black Lives Matter is attached to, like, how can I put this? Black Lives Matter is attached to black people, the black community. And Black Lives Matter are Marxists. They don't believe in the nuclear family. They want to tear the nuclear family apart. And they're also on the side of all this LGBTQ movement that serves no purpose to the black community. And when you're tearing apart families, we all know the black family has been torn apart since the what's the word I'm looking for? Food stamps and all that stuff since those days, since all that was implemented, since the Lyndon B. Johnson era. So once all that was implemented, the family began to be torn apart, and Black Lives Matter stand on the same principles, tearing apart the family. So for Charlamagne to say MAGA, America has racism simply because Donald Trump got elected, man, it's pathetic. It's pathetic, man. And that's exactly what Democrats want. This right here is maybe this is why they're the #1 radio show in the country, because we know Democrats promote this bullshit. And when you have shows like this in The View, and you got Biden coming on your show and telling you you're not black if you don't vote for him and all this stuff, come on, man.
Yes.
Really?
Absolutely.
Well, how is it, Charlamagne, that Donald Trump got 8% of the black vote in 2016? He got 12% in 2020, a 50% increase. He got 20% of the black male vote in 2020. If MAGA is racist, how do you explain that Donald Trump substantially increased the percentage of black votes the Republican Party got?
Sometimes people make poor
So why are you
choices.
running against Trump then, Mr. Elder?
Yeah,
I'm not running against him. I'm running against Biden Harris. Any one of the Republican nominees we have would be better than what we have right now. I'm not running against him. I'm running to put forth the issues I just now mentioned that I've been talking about for the last few minutes.
I want to ask you about that. After 4 indictments, 91 criminal charges, don't you think it would behoove the Republican Party to move on from Donald Trump?
I think that the voters in the primary will make that decision.
What do you think, though?
I have no problem with I thought Donald Trump did an extraordinary job as president, especially for black people. Best economy ever. He did something about the borders. The people that are most hurt because of porous borders are black people living in the inner city, because most of the illegal aliens have little or no education. They end up living in the inner city. They compete against black people with high school or less for jobs. Mm-hmm. There are about 1 million fewer black people working than who would otherwise be working if it weren't for illegal alien labor. And illegal alien labor, according to a study done by the Civil Rights Commission, puts downward pressure to the tune of almost $2,000 per year on the salaries of black people living in the inner city. And Donald Trump gave us the most secure border we ever had. He also supported school choice. He also did the First Step Act, which allowed about 5,000 mostly black men with long criminal sentences, nonviolent, to have their sentences reduced an average of 70 months per. He pardoned Jack Johnson, the first black heavyweight champion. Even Barack Obama didn't do that.
Yeah,
He did an extraordinary job for black people.
I think you're innocent until proven
Sounds like Trump did more for black people than Barack Obama.
guilty. But I feel like President Biden had 4 indictments, 91 criminal charges. President Obama had 4 indictments, 91 criminal charges. Y'all would be telling them that they need to step aside and they shouldn't be running for president.
Well, I wouldn't vote for Barack Obama or for Joe Biden in any case, no matter whether he had indictments or no indictments. I don't vote for tax spend, regulate liberals.
You're a conservative, right? Obviously.
No question.
What initially made you gravitate towards being a conservative?
I think it was my father. My father was a lifelong Republican, and my father always told my brothers and me the following. Democrats want to give you something for nothing. When you try and get something for nothing, you almost always end up getting nothing for something. And my dad, I told you about his background. He told my brothers.
That's right. Democrats want to give you something for nothing. And as a man, you should never want to get free shit. You should never want to get something for nothing. Right? Because then you just lay around and get free shit. You get money, you get food stamps, you get government assistance on housing and everything your whole life. And that defeats the purpose of being a man. Right? They offer these things to the women. They lay in their houses and, have kids and get food stamps or whatnot. And even that's a detriment to them. But, a lot have woken up. But when you just give someone something and they haven't worked for it, they're not going to appreciate it, nor are they going to take pride in the upkeep of it. That's why when if you're black, you go to the hoods or whatnot, and you go to a bunch of Section 8 houses, you see, man, them houses are run down, got kids all outside playing everywhere and not caring about the environment, not caring about the property, destroying the property because they don't care. They living on government assisted funds. And if anything happens, they can just pack up and move to the next.
To me that hard work wins. You get out of life what you put into it. You cannot control the outcome, Larry, but you are 100% in control of the effort. And before you moan or groan about what somebody did or said to you, go to the nearest mirror, look at it, and ask yourself, what could I have done to change the outcome? And finally, Charlamagne, my dad told my brothers and me this. No matter how hard you work, how good you are, sooner or later, bad stuff is going to happen to you. How you deal with those bad things will tell your mother and me if we raised a man. I wrote a book about my father's life. It's called Dear Father, Dear Son, 2 Lives, 8 Hours. It's about an 8-hour conversation he and I had. Where at the beginning of the conversation, I thought my dad was harsh. I thought he spanked us too often. We had a belt. In those days, from the South, you spank kids. And I thought my dad was way too harsh. And we had an 8-hour conversation. And by the time
I used to get spanked all the time. That's when boys were boys and girls were girls. Boys outside playing, horse playing around, skipping school, all type of stuff. And get right to the house and have to go pick out your own switch. And if there were no switches available, you getting whooped by probably the first thing in sight. Whether it's a shoe, a stenching cord, you know what I'm saying? You getting whooped one way or the other.
ended, my dad got bigger and bigger and bigger, and Larry Elder got smaller and smaller and smaller, and I apologized to him. And it's a book that's changed a lot of people's lives. It's called, as I said, Dear Father, Dear Son, 2 Lives, 8 Hours. The paperback is called A Lot Like Me. Same book, but it's cheaper.
Can you honestly say this is the Republican Party that you grew up on? This modern day GOP?
Yes. The Republican Party pretty much has always stood for low taxes, low regulation, peace through strength, not strength through peace, and strong borders, and still does. And when Donald Trump is gone, and he will be gone, even if he gets reelected, the day after he gets reelected, he's a lame duck, the party will still go on. The principles will still go on. However, I do believe that many people...
That's what a lot of people need to wake up and realize. Like, even though you might dislike Trump, but vote on the values, vote on the policy of the party he's representing. Because 9 times out of 10, that's what's going to be implemented throughout the country. So don't worry about the face of the Republican Party or the lies that the media tells you and the propaganda that's been put out that Republicans are somehow this bad guy and they're the racist and all that. That's not true. Look at the values that Republicans stand on compared to the values that Democrats stand on. Make your decision on that. Everything else is just noise. Trump, 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 Biden, Biden, Biden. All that stuff is noise. Since Biden has been in office, he hasn't done a damn thing for this country. And he's putting America last. Everything he's doing is putting Americans last. Let's use the most recent example. The Maui fire, the Hawaii fire. He's sending those people a one-time payment of $700, but he's been sending Ukraine billions. And Ukraine is every time I see a clip of Ukraine, they're out in the street, they're partying, they're having a good time. But you have people in your own country that is suffering, and you send them a one-time payment of $700. That travel expenses alone is going to use that up. Let's use another example by Biden. The border is wide open. He's giving, this administration, Biden, is giving illegal immigrants housing. He's accommodating them with food, housing, food, phone, money. He's supplying them with everything that they need. But a lot of them are laying out in the street. But it's no different than how he views everyday Americans. A lot of people in San Francisco, homeless, businesses are leaving. Crime is through the roof. Is that being addressed? No, it's not. Crime all throughout the country, in majority of Democratic states, has gone through the roof. Is anybody addressing that? No. They don't care. They don't care. So, once again, vote on the policies and the values for the two parties and which one you identify with the most. Don't vote for a face, whether you like or dislike Donald Trump or whether you like Biden. Even if you want to remain a Democrat, vote for somebody like Robert Kennedy Jr., someone with common sense and someone that wants to see America first. Don't. You can stay a Democrat, but vote. There are other people better than Biden.
People in our party have spent and spent and spent so that Ronald Reagan, my favorite president, when he entered the Oval Office, Charlamagne, when he left, the government was bigger. It got bigger under George Herbert Walker Bush. It got bigger under W. It got bigger under Donald Trump. And the only way to restrain spending is with an amendment to the Constitution to fix spending to a certain percentage of the GDP, with exception for war and for natural disaster. Otherwise, we're going to get bigger and bigger and bigger. Let me use the word unsustainable. That's the word Barack Obama used to describe the so-called entitlements. Unsustainable was a word that Bill Clinton used to describe them. But nothing happens because if you run claiming you're going to reform Social Security or Medicare, the other side is going to accuse you of not caring about the sick, the poor, the elderly, and you are going to lose elections. That's why government gets bigger and bigger and bigger. So we need a law to restrain spending. Otherwise, it's going to get bigger and bigger and bigger. And for young people like you, these programs are not going to be there.
Mr. Elder, I know a lot of Black conservatives, and I completely agree about the Black family. I don't think anybody here objects to that.
Don't disagree about that at all.
I think when you talk about ideology and then you mix in parties and then personalities, it gets kind of confusing. And, you mentioned yourself not to moan and groan, that as long as you work hard, all is well. And I think where the conflict is coming in is you did moan and groan about how the Republicans treated you. You did moan and groan about Governor Newsom and, asking for a recall. You did not leave that up to the voters. You are moaning and groaning when it comes to Donald.
Is her main job on this show is to pick fights? Because that's all I'm saying. She listened to the answers and then nitpicks to try to get a negative reaction in response.
Donald Trump and how he's being treated. So it just seems to be a hypocrisy. And I don't know if the message would land a little bit better if there was some fairness across the board on Democrats and Republicans. I'm an independent, by the way, and I think both parties are trash. And I think all of us here, see both sides.
Nah, man, don't use that independent card. Everybody on this show sounds and acts like Democrats. Don't use that independent card. Don't. Ain't nobody falling for it.
That's the part that's just not landing for me. There seems to be an unfairness on both sides with you.
Well, not too surprisingly, I don't agree with your analysis. How is it that I did not leave the recall to the voters? What do you mean by that?
What do you?
You said
say
you
that
said you said
again?
I didn't leave the recall to the voters.
No,
You
no,
said-
no. I said you moaned and groaned about it. You said it should be recalled, correct? Correct?
I said Gavin Newsom should have been recalled. Yes.
Right. That's moaning and groaning.
Well, actually, it's taking advantage of what's in the California Constitution, which is when a certain percentage of voters sign a petition to recall a politician, there can be a recall vote, and there was one, as there was in 2003. We recalled the governor then, and there was in 2021 when I attempted to recall Gavin Newsom. That's part of our democratic process in California.
Absolutely. Absolutely. We agree with that. I'm going to your statement when you said rather than moan about it a little while ago, you said rather than moan about it, I'm just going to keep doing the hard work. And so I'm just saying that technically is moaning
Well,
about it because the
I don't-
governor's the son.
That's
my point, sir.
I don't
It's-
follow.
it's-
I don't follow exactly what you're saying. I really don't.
It's okay. I didn't
Okay.
expect you to.
Yeah,
But it's
I'm
one
a
moment.
little slow
one
sometimes.
moment. One moment, yeah, we get it.
Yeah.
One moment you're complaining about the system, and the next minute you're saying the system is fair. The next minute you're saying it's not fair. So that's what I'm saying. There just seems to be a double standard on you and the system, not wanting to be accountable for a system that Black people are not in charge of. By the way, of not wanting to hold both sides accountable when it comes to the system.
Do I believe Hillary was
all.
treated differently and Joe Biden treated differently than Donald Trump is being treated? Yes, I do. Is that an indictment about whether or not America is systemically racist? No, it is not. Those are
They're two totally
two different
things.
Yes,
You're
yes, they
trying
are.
to merge the two, but they're two totally different things.
I agree with you. They're
But
two
it is
different
still the
things.
system.
No,
It is
no,
still- it
we're
is still the
agreeing. We're
system.
agreeing. They're two different things. We're agreeing.
No, we're agreeing to two different things. We're not agreeing that there's not systematic racism.
Man, she's so out of whack that she's failing to realizing that they're actually agreeing on something. That's how combative she is. That's how when you get in an argument with someone and you actually make a point and then they start to see your point and agree with you, they try to hurry up and move the goalpost so that the argument can proceed on. She's so out of whack, man. Her I believe her sole purpose is to start fights and nitpick and just get negative reactions out of people.
Because we're not in charge of the system, sir. In case you
Okay,
unfamiliar
all right,
about
all right.
the
Can we?
system.
Can we?
Black
can-
people
can-
have never been in charge of any system.
Well,
We're not even that vein.
actually, we have been. Take Baltimore.
No, we've never been in charge
may
of
I
any
finish?
system. Tell me, what financial system are Black people in
Okay,
charge of?
let's
What
take-
healthcare system are Black people in charge of? What government?
She's talking about a system like if white people were over this so-called system, white people wouldn't be in white people wouldn't be struggling. We all know white people struggle just like Black people struggle. So it's no particular race per se that's over this system. The people that are over the system, the people that are over the system are so smart and you'll never see them, you'll never know who they are. But they're the ones that got people like her complaining and brainwashed into thinking that it's a particular race that's over the system. The true system they don't care about color. The true system is the rich and the poor. And up under the system, we're all poor. We're all poor up under the system. Right? So it's not about Blacks being held up under the system or whites being held up under the system or Mexicans or Asians. The system, we don't know who's over the system. And this little, like the mayors and the presidents and the councilmen, all that, man, the system controls all of that. So she talking about, oh, it ain't never been a Black person over the system. We don't know who's over the system because the people that's over the system, life is a system. Life is the system. Being taught that there is racism is a part of the system. Being taught that you have to work 40 hours a week is a part of the system. What you see on TV, in movies, that's a part of the system. We're at the bottom of the barrel. It's all this, oh, Black people ain't never been over the system and that. Nah. That little racism, systemic racism shit they talking about, man, that system is way beyond that.
employment system are black people in
I'm
charge of?
about ready to tell
what
you.
prison system are
I'm
black people in charge?
about ready to tell you.
I'm not talking about mayors. I already know that talking point, sir. I go on Fox News all the time as well. So let's not.
She said she goes on Fox all the time. She said what black people, what prison systems are black people over? What make people go to prison? That algorithm alone is a part of the higher system. What causes people to go to prison? What influences people to go to prison? To allow for all these prisons to be built to accommodate all these criminals. What turns a person into a criminal? That's the type of system you need to be questioning.
Let's not go there with that. I said, what system have we created?
Goodness.
Have we implemented that we have been in charge of? Name one.
Is this why you don't like talking to black women, Larry Elder?
Wow. Baltimore. Freddie Gray a few years ago.
No. That's mayors. I'm not talking. I said system.
I'm
Remember,
going to
like
tell
the
you
word
about
system.
this system if you allow me to finish my point.
I'm not talking about somebody elected and doing a job, sir. I asked, what system did we create? What financial
Okay, let's
system
talk
did we
about the
create?
system of one of the largest.
Let him say his point,
Thank you.
sir.
What financial system did we create? Do you know who even created the financial system that the countries are a part of? That's implemented worldwide. Do you know who created all of these systems? You just think it was just some white men that created these systems? That made the dollar valuable? That put BRICS Nation, put them together and all that? You think white men came up with all this stuff? You think the topic of race was discussed during the implementation of the financial system?
One of the systems of one of the largest cities in America, Baltimore. Freddie Gray died in police custody a few years ago. The mayor was black. The head of the police department was black. Number two,
It's not in charge of the system, but go ahead.
number two person in charge of the police department was black. All
Still not in charge of the
of
system.
city council, Democrats, majority black.
Still not in charge of the system.
Wow.
That's a position.
6 officers charged, 3 of them were black. A judge before whom 2 of the officers tried their case, found him not guilty, was black.
Still not in charge of the system.
The city intendant of public schools was black. The county superintendent of public schools was black. The attorney general at the time, Loretta Lynch, is black, as was the president of the United States, was black. And yet,
Still not in charge of the system.
who's in charge
I
of
asked
the
you a
system,
simple
Ted?
question, sir.
well, Wanda Sykes said when Barack Obama got elected, how are you going to complain about the man when you are the man? Now, from the president to the attorney general to the state attorney to the mayor to the head of the police department to the commissions of the schools in the city and in the county to the majority of city council in
Larry Elder, I just went and got a drink for you, man, because I know you need one after sitting here. I know you need one. Going through this for an hour, I know you needed a drink.
in that city, all of them are black. And you're still saying that we don't run anything?
So who's in charge of the
No,
system,
no.
Ted?
I said who created the system. I didn't say we didn't run anything. I challenged a lot of those black leaders, by the way. I said when we talk about the system, what black people have been in charge of any system. I'm not talking about a position. I'm not talking about a mayor. You know good
Oh, so
well what I'm talking
you're
about,
basically
Mr.
saying
Elder.
that they're black faces that are still in those
Correct.
positions, but they're still being
Correct.
part
Similar
of the
to you, Mr.
So-
Elder.
so-
You're
so-
a black face in a position in the conservative movement. They're just the same. They're just on the other side. I'm talking about we have never been in charge
then
of
when
the
Martin Luther
system.
King said in 1966, I believe there could be a black president in about 40 years' time, then it really doesn't matter whether there's one or isn't.
No,
It's one, because nothing
he
changes. He was
well,
naive.
the system
He was
also
naive then.
killed him as well. Well, we know that the FBI and the CIA also killed him. That system. You realize that, correct?
Wow. An individual killed him.
Right. That was also a part of Pro Hotel through the system.
COINTELPRO,
Correct?
yeah.
Not correct.
COINTELPRO.
Not correct. He was
So
killed.
the FBI didn't have anything to do with it. The CIA didn't have anything to do with
J.
it.
Edgar Hoover was definitely on Martin's ass. Like, come on.
I didn't say he wasn't.
Oh.
Robert Kennedy is the one that approved the wiretaps. But to say that the FBI killed him, I mean, what's your evidence of that?
No,
That's a pretty serious charge.
Yeah, I get what you're saying.
Pretty serious charge.
Yeah.
Serious charge
Yeah, I
requires
was talking
serious
about the
evidence.
Yeah.
What is your
Mr.
enforcement
Elder,
law proposal?
It is to allow states to set up commissions of retired judges and retired DAs to get rid of these soft on crime, George Soros-backed DAs that are allowing a bunch of bad
Larry Elder just bobbing and weaving, man. He can't he can't get in it. They try to put him in the corner, man. Larry Elder just come back with the facts. He just addresses them, so smoothly and calmly and moves on. They can't stand. It seems like they can't stand the fact that he has so much knowledge and it is so up to date, and they can't. It's hard for them to have a rebuttal for anything that he's saying.
Bad people on the streets are not charging bad people to the full extent of the law, and the people that, by and large, that are hurt by these people are the very black and brown people living in the inner city.
Mm.
There's a Larry Krasner is a George Soros-backed DA in Philadelphia. He's been impeached, but this Philadelphia State Senate wouldn't even take up the case. We have a governor named Gavin. That's not telling women what to do with their body. That's expressing my opinion about whether or not it is right or it is wrong. For example, there is a guy right now behind bars in Philadelphia named Dr. Kermit Gosnell. Mm-hmm. He is an abortion doctor who performed late-term abortions. When I ask people who consider my position to be extreme, I ask them, tell me at what point do you believe pregnancy has gone so far that to terminate the unborn would be homicide? And almost nobody will give you an answer. So in other words, what you're really telling me then is this guy, Dr. Kermit Gosnell, should be set free. He's a political prisoner. He was persecuted unfairly. If you won't tell me when you think at what point a pregnancy abortion has been put on the ballot in recent years, behavior to continue, you're going to get more bad behavior, whether that's...
So how does that apply to President Trump then? Because you said that was a two-tier system that
because
that's unfair.
I don't believe Donald Trump...
You don't think he did anything?
I don't think he did anything wrong. No, I don't. I believe that he complained about the election the same way Hillary did. Hillary, for 4 years, referred to the 2016 election as having been stolen, her word, not mine. She called Donald Trump illegitimate, her word, not mine. Jay Johnson, who's Obama's DHS secretary, testified under oath that not a single vote tally was changed by the Russians. They tried, but they failed to change a single vote tally. 66% of Democrats believe the Russians changed vote tallies to get Donald Trump elected. Even though Jay Johnson testified under oath, not a single one was changed. That's the damage that people like Hillary and former President Jimmy Carter and Stacey Abrams and Hakeem Jeffries and others have said for years, referring to Donald Trump as illegitimate. A greater percentage of Democrats believe 2016 was stolen than we feel that way about 2020, but yet nobody calls them election deniers and nobody accuses them of undermining our republic. And they're not undermining our republic. They're complaining about an election. You have a right to do so.
I know you probably got to go. Have you ever heard of the term nigga wake-up call?
No.
It is an incident where a person of color...
Here is the viral moment where Larry Elder checks Charlamagne masterfully on his own joke. Charlamagne asked this man, has he ever heard of a nigga wake up moment? When he had one of the greatest nigga wake up moments in history when Joe Biden came here and said, you're not black if you don't vote for me. But yet Charlamagne still hasn't woken up.
Forgets that they are of color and are reminded rather brutally by an unexpected act of racism. Have you ever had any of those?
Oh, brother.
I'm just asking. You think you've ever
Well,
had
I'm acutely aware, Charlamagne, that I'm a black person, just as you are a black person. And when Joe Biden insulted you by saying, you ain't really black, we don't know whether or not you want to vote for me or vote for Donald Trump, it seems to me that should have been a wake-up call on your part. How dare this guy come in here and insult you, a black man, and tell you you got to think a certain kind of way? I'm amazed that you weren't mad about that.
I'm not gonna say it upset me, just like I'm not letting you upset me. You know what I mean? I don't tend to get upset over things like that. But what I did.
Why did Charlamagne say, I'm not letting it upset me, just like I'm not letting you upset me? Larry Elder hasn't done a thing or said anything to even upset you, Charlamagne. Nothing Larry Elder has said has been targeted at you, Charlamagne. So why would you respond like a female and say, hey, it didn't upset me, just like I'm not letting you upset me. Nigga, what are you talking about? Nah, just get ready to be checked real quick. Just get this checking real quick.
Well, you just not talk about a nigger wake-up call, and it seemed to me that should have been a wake-up call on your part to have a white guy come in here who also said, by the way, about Mitt Romney, because he didn't want to put more regulations on Wall Street, going to put y'all back in chains. And Joe Biden has lied for decades about his civil rights record, claiming that he desegregated movie theaters and restaurants in Wilmington, Delaware, when he didn't do any of that. He lied and said that he tried to visit Nelson Mandela during apartheid South Africa. He did not. And he came in here and told you aren't even black and let you think a certain kind of way. It seemed to me that should have been a nigga wake-up call for you, but it wasn't, apparently.
Yeah, I mean, no, for the record, I'm not a Democrat or Republican.
I didn't say you were.
Yeah, I think both.
I don't know what
trash.
you are. I never even asked you about your party affiliation.
Yeah,
I'm just saying, but you are.
Charlamagne said, "Well, I'm not a Democrat or a Republican." Charlamagne, you could have fooled us, man. You look like a full-blown extreme leftist. Charlamagne said, "Well, I'm not even. I'm not a Republican or a Democrat. So Joe Biden telling me that didn't even affect me. Hey, but you a black man. You black, right? That man told you who you supposed to vote for, who you supposed to think, and what you supposed to think, what you supposed to believe. He told you if you don't vote for him, you're not black. As if Joe Biden, as if he has some type of immaculate history amongst black people. When he the one put the crime bill in place, put damn near all the blacks in jail. And he told you, Charlamagne, that you're not black if you don't vote for him. Oh man.
Are black, and to have a white guy come in here and tell you have to say think a certain kind of way, otherwise you quote ain't black. Wow.
How should I have replied to him? You think?
What I just now said. How dare you insult me and tell me I think as a human being, let alone as a black person? I don't tell you how to think, Joe Biden. How dare you come in here and tell me how I should think? I'm going to vote for Donald Trump if I want to vote for Donald Trump. And if I want to vote for Donald Trump, it does not make me not black. 20% of black people, black men, as I said, voted for Donald Trump in 2020. Are they not black now? So only 80% of black people, black men walking around are really black, 20% are not because they voted for Donald Trump. How insulting is that? How condescending is that?
I mean, you're probably right, but I didn't take it in that.
I mean, you're probably right, but I ain't taking it that way. You're probably right, but I ain't taking it that way.
That way.
Well, I did.
As I said to him in that moment, it's just about me wanting something for my people, and I want to know what is he going to do for my people, and not only for my people now. How are you going to atone for the things you've done to my people?
Right.
That's it.
Right. Men, as I said, voted for Donald Trump in 2020. Are they not black now? So only 80% of black people, black men walking around are really black, 20% are not because they voted for Donald Trump. How insulting is that? How condescending is that?
I mean, you're probably right, but
I mean, you're probably right, but I ain't taking it that way.
I didn't take it in that way.
Well, I did.
As I said to him in that moment, it's just about me wanting something for my people, and I want to know what is he going to do for my people, and not only for my people now. How are you going to atone for the things you've done to my people?
Right.
Charlamagne,
right.
stop
the
the
guy,
cap.
Joe Biden, who, when he first got into the Senate, hung out with segregationists, talked about how well he got along with them, talked about how he didn't want integration because of a jungle. This guy has made all sorts of insulting things to black people, and his policies right now are hurting black people. Inflation hurts the people at the bottom more than anything else. Letting a bunch of illegal aliens into the border are hurting black people more than anybody else, as I said earlier. He opposes school choice when he has his own kids in private school, and we lost a year, almost 2 years of in-school education in California because of COVID that he supported. I mean, this guy has done monstrous things to black people, and then for him to come in here and tell you how you ought to think as a black person, it blew my mind.
As a person objectively who doesn't care about either party, when I just take a step back and I just look at everything that's happening.
Notice how every time he gets checked, he say, "Oh, I'm not a part of either party. I'm not a party." It doesn't matter, bro. All of this should influence you to vote for the right party, the party that's more aligned with your values. So why do you keep saying, "Oh, I'm not with any party. I'm just independent. I'm not with any party." So why do y'all get so defensive with these Republican candidates? I want the next Democrat candidate. I want to see y'all have the same energy. I want to see it because it's not fair to only attack Republican candidates and just all smiling teeth with Democrat candidates.
I see one party that seems still committed to democracy somewhat, and one party who's headed fast towards fascism. That's just my personal opinion.
The party that I see that's more for democracy seems to be the Republican. The ones headed towards fascism seems to be the Democrats. So hopefully that's who he was referring to as well.
So who do you think I would vote for?
Well,
Who would you vote? Who would you
let's
vote for in that?
let's talk about fascism, since I assume you're talking about election denying. In 2000, when George W. Bush won the election over Al Gore, the Democrats, the first week of January 2001, tried to overturn the results in Florida. 2004, George W. Bush gets reelected. Democrats, including Benny Thompson, the chair of the January 6th committee, Jamie Raskin, a member of the January 6th committee, joined with 28 other House Democrats and Senator Barbara Boxer to overturn the results in Ohio, claiming without any evidence that the Debo voting machine had been hacked. 2016, January 2017, Democrats challenged more states trying to get the election overturned that elected Donald Trump. Then Donald Trump challenged the first week of January in 2021. Nobody accused them of undermining our republic. Nobody accused them of being fascists. They exercised whatever means they could to try to win the election. I want to remind you that Hillary Clinton advised Joe Biden during the 2020 election, if it is a close election, quote, do not concede under any circumstances, close quote. Donald Trump could, advancing some novel legal theories to try to stay in office, and he failed. But I don't blame him for trying.
Yeah, but it's not just election denying. It's the disdain of women and fear of non-standard gender identities and sexual orientation.
Disdain
it's
for
the
women.
galvanizing of popular rage against cultural elites. It's nationalism based on dominant, superior race and historic bloodlines. Like, there's a lot of things that Republicans...
Wait, everything he just named sounds like Democrats.
Means he could, advancing some novel legal theories to try to stay in office, and he failed. But I don't blame him for trying.
Yeah, but it's not just election denying. It's the disdain of women and fear of non-standard gender identities and sexual orientation.
Disdain
it's
for
the
women.
galvanizing of popular rage against cultural elites. It's nationalism based on dominant, superior race and historic bloodlines. Like, there's a lot of...
What the fuck is he talking? That sounds like Democrats. All right. We're going to wrap it up on that. I done held y'all too long, man. If you stuck with me this entire time, man, I really appreciate you. Thank you. Thank you for tuning in and watching Larry Elder check the Breakfast Club, man. Thank you. But as a black person, as a black man, I just hope more black people wake up to the truth and get out of this Democratic trance. Like, your vote does not belong to Democrats. Republicans aren't the big bad guys. They're not the racists. Like I said in the beginning, do yourself a favor. Pull out the Republican charts and pull out the Democratic chart. Compare the two. Make your vote based on those charts and which one of those charts best aligns with your values. Forget all of this other noise, all of this other noise that's in the media about Trump this, Trump that, Biden this, Biden that. Think about the party that you're voting for and what they represent. And think about what we're currently going through as a country today under the current administration. And they represent Democrats. Are you okay with what you're seeing in this country today? Do you want to repeat it for another 4 years after the election? That's a decision you got to make and not be influenced by the media. On that note, man, hit that like button, comment, subscribe. Once again, salute, peace and blessings. I'm out.